Alright, y'all. I got all the parts in that I should need. Fuel line. I don't need it, but I'm going to see if this is the right one that came with the kit for fuel line. Fuel filter, recoil. First, alright, all you really are going to need is... I've got a pair of these to help put the fuel line inside the tank. I'll show you why I got the diagonal cutters in a minute. A ratchet with a 3/4 inch socket, a number 8 socket, Phillips, and a Torx T25. So I'm going to start by cutting this off because I saved the handles, and you never know when you're going to need a handle, so that's what the side cutters are for. And I got a backup handle. Alright, so I'm going to take all the... First thing you got to do is take all this plastic off, which is why I got these. Oh, and this ain't necessary. This is just my preferred way to take all the plastic off. You can use just a normal screwdriver. But I'm doing it this way because it makes it a little bit easier, go a little bit quicker. Alright, let me take all this plastic off. And I want to point out to you guys, well, along with these ones on the top and down here, which it didn't come with, so make sure you have a long bit, because there's screws, can't see them, but they're in those little holes. So just be aware of that if you're using a drill like I am. Alright, this just goes right there, one bolt there, and it clips into down here. And this is just, I gotta take off there's 2 bolts in the front, 1 hole, 2 hole, 2 bolts back here. I'm gonna have to take off this side to get this off, see if there's anything else underneath. But make sure you know where all your bolts are. But first I'm gonna take the recoil off, just those 4 screws. Alright, got the recoil off. That's the old one versus the new. And those are the 4 bolts for the recoil. I go in those 4 holes. And I always make sure that looks the same as that, which they do. So, and that's what I still gotta take this off to get to in here to the carburetor. Alright, let's do that, and I'll see y'all in a minute. So for this part here, you're gonna need that number 8 socket. And I thought I was mistaken that was a Phillips. That is actually a smaller torque head, or torque. You're gonna want the T20, I think it is. Yeah, T20 instead of the Phillips. That's on me, but I'm going to take that off and see you guys in a second. Alright, so I want to point out before I remove the carburetor any further, you got to pay attention where your fuel lines go. This one that is in my hand goes there and over to that top hole on the primer, and that other one goes right into the fuel tank. And right down there is your return line for the primer. So I'm gonna go ahead, unhook all that, and then cut the new lines and show you how to put it in filter. Forgot to point out, you do have to disconnect this, which is your throttle. That is very important to pay attention to. That gets hooked back up afterwards, just unhooks like that, and then your carburetor can come out. So just wanted to point that out. You got to be careful with that. Make sure that is always put back in the proper way. Alright, so this part right here is what connects the inner fuel line to the outside fuel line. I'm going to carefully cut that piece of fuel line off. And then I'll put the new inner part in, and I'll show you guys how I'm doing that. It is hard. So I gotta go inside the fuel tank and out that hole right there. So let's hope this doesn't go too hard for us. And let's see how this goes. Alright, got the fuel line on. It took me probably frickin' half an hour to do, because of how much of a pain the line was to put through the hole. And I said screw it, and I bypassed that stupid little plastic piece. So what I'm going to do now is attach the filter and drop it in the tank. Alrighty, fuel filter is on as far as I can get it. In the tank to go. I'm going to take these and try to push it in as far as I can. Yeah, that's good right there. So now I've got this line right here. I got for the return line. I'm gonna get that all cut and hooked up, and then I'm gonna cut this and hook it all up, and I'll show you how it was all set. Alright, I got all my lines in, and I already got this side put back together. So now I'm gonna put the recoil on. Make sure it all lines up. But I gotta put the other plastic on too, so I'll get to that and get back.